On this episode of Parent Chats, we will talk with Corporal David Lang of the RCMP on the risks to young people regarding human trafficking. Thanks for the great intro from our producer Brian C., and welcome to another episode of Parent Chats on nslive.tv. I'm your host and children's book author, Ken Hubley. Today's show is meant to raise awareness about a topic that we hear more about nowadays than we have in the past. It's not our intention to scare you, but to simply raise awareness about a very important topic. Today, I'd like to welcome Corporal Lane from the RCMP to the show. Welcome, Corporal Lane. And thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
We're not going to show his face. We're just going to have the RCMP logo on the screen for this show. So I want to start off by saying that we understand that this is a difficult topic and we always want our kids to be safe. So, Corporal, please take a moment to tell us about the human trafficking of young people. Is there a real threat in Nova Scotia, and can it happen to all genders?
Yes, thank you for having me. I definitely would agree that there is a threat to kids in Nova Scotia, but I want to put in the caveat that there's basically human trafficking happens everywhere in Canada. Unfortunately, we have more slaves now than any time in our history, so I don't want people to think that they have to be extra cautious in our province. That being said, I think the reason that it's at the forefront, that the stats are high, is because Nova Scotia is actually doing a good job, like yourself, bringing awareness to the topic. So the more we educate ourselves, the more we discuss it, the more we kind of, give ourselves weapons to identify it, the more it's coming to the forefront. So I think the discussion is a good thing, not a bad thing. It is unfortunately a crime that targets young people, especially the sex trafficking. So we're looking at the statistics are very it's hard to nail down the statistics with human trafficking because a lot of people don't even realize they're being trafficked. So what I mean by that is if a trafficker does his technique in the right job, he could trick someone into this lifestyle and they might not even know they're a victim. So I try not to focus on the stats. But I can say some things like, people can be targeted, the average age is about 14 to 16. We see a lot of females being targeted for the sex trade. But I have to tell you that all genders, members of the LGBTQ plus have been targeted. So I don't want anyone to feel comfortable because they think that they're not going to be targeted. And again, you're pretty safe from human trafficking if you're educated and know what to look for.
That's excellent. That's why we are doing this show. We want to share with parents and we want to help them. So thank you for coming on to this. You hit an interesting point there about how many different people can be targeted. I've had conversations in the past and I've heard parents say, we're a two-family parent family. We're in a good school. We have good resources. This isn't going to happen to us. This is only to marginalize people in the community. Is that true, or it can't? I'd like you to expand a little bit on it can happen to more people. Like, how wide can this be?
Well, the two things that I was always, I have 20 years at the RCMP, and kind of before I got directly into human trafficking, I was always under the impression that it was for marginalized or high-risk vulnerable areas, or for bigger cities. And in my experience doing this since 2016 is that rural areas are fair game for traffickers, especially with the use of social media where they can recruit from their couch. But also that it does affect what we would say, what I guess what you would say would be a stable home, two parents, the kids, full sports programs. So when I'm always asked what's my biggest surprise, that's one of them, that it's not just high risk. It seems to be everyone. The one common factor we find is that usually the person being trafficked, and it's no fault of their own, has something that the trafficker will focus on. There's something that they are offering or focusing on or dependent on that they will use to lure someone into this lifestyle. So, when people ask me what's the one message you could give parents, my message is always that it can happen to anyone, anywhere. So don't. I'm not trying to make people paranoid, but I just want people to, to be aware of the facts.
No, this is great. Awareness is so important, and to have someone that is exposed to the community and to what's going on. We're thankful for your service, that you're out there helping us, and to you and your colleagues. And no, this is very important. What type of information can we share with our kids as we're trying to have chats? We don't want to terrify them. We want them to be aware. It's a very delicate process. We talk a lot about having chats with kids. Do you have any tips on how we can have a chat in this area with our children?
So I would say like one of the biggest things that we rely on, which is kind of unique in this aspect of policing, is a collaboration with other people. And one of the biggest things is survivors. So people who've been recruited into the lifestyle, have been trafficked, and now they're on the other side. And I always, kind of want to get their insight. And they always say, like, if I knew the red flags before I got in, there's a chance that I wouldn't have got in. So this doesn't have to be a heavy topic. You don't have to scare your kids and impact their life, but you could educate them on, if someone offers you something and it sounds too good to be true, think about it. If people are giving you gifts with no return, with no expectation of return, that's a bit strange. So if you know the red flags, then maybe you could be like, maybe there's something up here. Because as I told you earlier, like sometimes people don't even realize they're going down that slippery slope till it's too late. And then once the traffickers have the hold on them, a lot of these people feel like there's no way out. So I guess, have a conversation with the kids. The number one I tell parents is educate yourself. Read literature, watch the documentaries, read the news articles, watch the shows like you're putting on right now. And then just have a normal conversation so that when that trafficker comes along to your kid, you're going to go right on to the next kid. And I'm not saying pass the problem, but it's going to make them traffic kind of proof, because the kid's going to not know that this is rigged.
Excellent. Where can parents find support? You talked about documentation and things like that. Where can they find support or more information if they're concerned their child may be involved with a potential trafficker, or to learn the signs to look for so they can be more observant and help the child be more observant?
Well, what happens is when people start looking for information on human trafficking, or usually when after I talk to them, they'll say, I can't stop seeing it everywhere. For example, we flooded our airports with the human trafficking campaign. We work with campaigns like Not in My City. There's a the National Human Trafficking tip line if you want to discuss or look for support. In Nova Scotia, we have a human trafficking tip line that gives people access to our team 24/7. So the literature is out there, the information is out there, but there's also, I encourage people to read books, watch the documentaries. It's as simple as going on YouTube or Netflix and typing it in. The good thing is that the trends across the United States and Canada are the same because these people are moving. So, yeah. You don't really necessarily need to watch a Nova Scotia documentary, because unfortunately our victims move all across Canada. So the trends are very similar. So I think there's a lot of material out there. I mean, start with a 1 hour documentary and then talk about it with your spouse, and then keep going from there. But if you think someone that you know is being trafficked, definitely contact your local police. If you're not comfortable with Crime Stoppers, there's an actual tip line, like I said, as well as our unit has a 24/7 direct line.
Yeah. Do you have the number for the tip line?
It's 902-449-2425.
2425. Okay. And that is so important. I just want to highlight what you said with the tip line, with the resources, with the police. There is a lot of support out there. So if you are in a situation where you are concerned about this, or you feel your child may be involved in something and you don't know, there is support, there is literature, there are shows, there is information for you. So please reach out or do your research. Is it true that if someone has visible marks like a birthmark or a tattoo, that it's generally discouraging to human traffickers, and that they do not, less likely a chance of being picked up because they don't want to have someone that has these identifiable marks?
No, that's not something I heard of because basically, you hear human trafficking referred to as the hidden epidemic, and what they mean by that is it's actually not. It's not in the shadows. It happens right in front of us. It happens at the airport, at the hotels, at the bus terminals. Uh, Traffickers have been getting away with it so long that they will, bring someone into a five-star hotel or a roadside motel. They have really no fear that people are going to spot this. So I don't think that they're even worried. Sometimes these traffickers will even meet the parents. They'll let them go home for Christmas or summer vacations. That's how brazen they are. So it sounds kind of cliche, but I always say if we turn the light on human trafficking, they'll have nowhere to hide. So
Exactly.
if we just educate ourselves, like we will know that that doesn't look right at the airport. That doesn't look like an hotel. And a lot of parents will wait months, maybe years before they'll call and talk to a parent support worker or a human trafficking investigator, and they'll say, something's not right with my daughter. She's with this boyfriend and I only see him twice a year, but he seems like a nice guy, but something in my gut feels strange. Sometimes I get it, but they could have called earlier. So I really encourage people to kind of, again, the theme of today is get educated, and you'll be armed to deal with this. And the earlier, the better, obviously.
Exactly. So it's not necessarily a random stranger that's doing the trafficking to you. They befriend you, they get to know you. You mentioned before some of the signs of if it's too good to be true and really nice gifts with no expectation. There seems like there's a relationship that they're developing along the way. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's like sometimes the victims will say it was the most intense relationship I ever had, and I would do anything to go back to when I first met him or her because he treated me so well. I felt like I won the lotto. Um,
Wow.
Believe it or not, Ken, a lot of parents would say to me like, "Well, I met this young man or young woman, and they were so polite, so well put together, and so charismatic that I thought there's no way that they could do that." So again, these people, if you really think about it, their job is to manipulate and kind of influence people. So it's not unusual for the parents or people, even police, who meet them and think that they're, nice people, businessmen, whatever. So it's really important for everyone to educate. And we do educate our frontline officers in Nova Scotia on what to look for.
Excellent. I'm really happy to hear that. And finally, what message do you have to parents, and what have I missed? What questions have I not asked that you would like to give information on? Because this is such an important topic. Anything you wish to say to parents, please feel free.
Well, there's other. I know I'm coming at it from a law enforcement, but I know the government has invested a lot. Both governments have invested a lot in things like the YWCA. There's a parent support worker. There's survivors. There's trafficking strategies. So if you're not even comfortable with law enforcement, we suggest people get involved with, the support systems that are there. So just as long as you're talking to someone and kind of get it there. The other thing I would say is don't have in your mind what you think a pimp or a trafficking victim looks like. If you do that, you're going to set yourself up for failure. They come in all sizes, different shapes, different ages. And you have to think about the trends are always the same, but it doesn't have to be a $5,000 purse. If you're from a small rural place in Nova Scotia and someone buys you a new iPhone, that could be just as important as a new car or purse. So again, I can't stress enough, if you know what to look for, it will almost be they will avoid you because you're armed against them. You have the armor on.
Well, thank you so much, Corporal Lane. I mean, I've done some research on this topic, and I've learned a lot here today, just being able to, so I hope that it's able to help the audience as well. I appreciate you taking the time to come in, and if there's viewers out there that you see suspicious activity or you're concerned, as I said before, please reach out, whether to law enforcement or one of the other great organizations or the tip line that Corporal Lane has mentioned. And I really want to encourage you to get informed as parents and to be able to help your children and have chats. Again, it's not about scaring you. It's not about scaring your children. It's about being educated, and that's the best defense in a situation like this sometimes. And I want to thank everyone for watching and encourage you to leave a comment and like and share. Subscribe to NovaScotiaLive.tv, which helps us bring more shows like this to you. I'm Ken Hubley, and as I always say, my hood is parenthood. Take care.